Hello, my name is Caleb Smith with the Rocket Miner newspaper, here to provide your news update for July 18th, 2020. I hope you've had a productive weekend. I've tried to get a bit of work done myself. I helped some friends move today while keeping my head wrap in place. So if you notice a slight difference in coloration from north to south, well, kudos to you for your keen eye and or high definition monitor. I'm so sorry you're using it to look at this bug. Anyway, I'd like to go over some of the stories that I found interesting this weekend. Sometimes it's a headline that attracts my attention, such as the story that the Associated Press pushed through, titled "Chipmunks, Fattened Up on Acorns, Are Driving People Nuts." It's about how a bumper acorns crop in the spring has led to a chipmunk population explosion in the summer, particularly in the New England area, and noting that while they're cute and fun to watch in the forest, stuck in and out of holes and play peekaboo, they also have a propensity of tearing up yards with their tunneling, gardens, and even getting into homes, which I personally don't think I'd have much patience for. Now, this type of thing will take its course, even though that it's never great when any part of the population um, starts to um, see an explosion. There's just certain things that kick in. It's noted that if even if they are able to survive all their usual predators like owls, hawks, snakes, foxes, raccoons, humans with a keen eye and small caliber weapons, that their typical lifespan is only for about 3 years. So this will cycle out in time. Um, when it also comes to cute and fuzzy mascots, do you like my transition? Major League Baseball started the first of its COVID era exhibition games this Saturday. Um, Games were played in Washington, New York, and Pittsburgh. And there were, of course, some changes. There really weren't any fans in the sound, though they had fake crowd noise. Um, Number of players and officials were wearing masks. Sometimes even the teams themselves are spread out, even sitting in the stands to practice safer distancing. This is all as the league aims to have a shortened 60-game season. That will kick off Thursday. One wrinkle with that is that, and here's another headline that I found interesting. It's also from the AP. No Canada. Blue Jays barred from playing against Toronto. And if you didn't get the gist from the story, the Blue Jays baseball team won't be able to play home games because Canada's government doesn't think that it's safe for players to travel back and forth from the United States at a time when our country's coronavirus figures continue to be worrisome. The story notes that the other 29 Major League Baseball teams do plan to play in their home ballparks without spectators when the shortened season begins on July 23rd. Oh, my co-host here. While we're on the topic, let's go through coronavirus figures. According to the Wyoming Department of Health, lab confirmed cases in Wyoming now total 1,713. We have 395 probable cases and 24 people who have died COVID-19 related deaths. In Sweetwater County, we are presently up to 159 lab confirmed cases and 12 probable cases. Turning to Johns Hopkins University, for national and global totals, the United States is up to 3,706,927 on total cases. And our death toll now sits at 140,103 people who have died. Overall, we have 14,223,132 cases. Global death toll has just ticked back ticked past 600,000, more specifically 600,629 people. And recoveries are now at 7,984,941 people, and that includes 1,122,720 in the U.S. Looking forward to that being number being 8 million when we get to tomorrow. One other thing to be noting is that today it was announced that U.S. Representative John Lewis of Georgia has died. In response, Governor Mark Gordon announced that, pursuant to President Donald Trump's proclamation, that the U.S. and Wyoming flags will be flown at half-staff statewide through July 18th. Now, not all of you may be familiar with Mr. Lewis. I wish to draw your attention to March, which is actually part of a 3-book comic book series, and it's atypical for a person elected to Congress to have penned a comic book of any sort. But this is particularly about his work in the civil rights movement. Just to go ahead and just read from the cover, noting that Congressman John Lewis, Georgia 5th District, is an American icon, one of the key figures of the civil rights movement. His commitment to justice and nonviolence has taken him from an Alabama sharecropper's farm to the halls of Congress, from a segregated schoolroom to the 1963 March on Washington, and from receiving beatings from state troopers to receiving the Medal of Freedom from the first African American president. Now, to share his remarkable story with new generations, John Lewis presents March, a graphic novel trilogy in collaboration with co-writer Andrew Aiden and the New York Times bestselling artist Nate Powell. And you'll indulge me just to describe to you the beginning. It starts with a dedication to the past and future children of the movement. And it begins with a view kind of looking through the bars as one can see walking along a bridge. And the question's asked, John, can you swim? And it cuts away to a view of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where while the roads are wide open, the pedestrian portion is, you can see just the beginnings of a long train of people. And like I said, the question is, can you swim? And John says, no. And his friend says, well, neither can I, but we might have to. And that's where it cuts away from the train of people to a crowd of helmeted, masked, armed state troopers holding rifles, truncheons, the chains of angry dogs. And it cuts to a man with a megaphone announcing, this is an unlawful assembly. Your march is not conducive to the public safety. You are ordered to disperse and go back to your church or to your homes. And a member of the crowd calls, may we have a word with the major? There is no word to be had. The word comes back. And he tries again. May we have a word with the... And he's interrupted with there is no word to be had. You have 2 minutes to turn around and go back to your church. And you see John quietly closing his eyes and saying, we should kneel and pray, Hosea, he says to the leader. And it shows the word goes through the crowd that now they're going to kneel and pray. And there's compliance and questions that just softly comes up from the crowd, even as they take their position on their knees. And you see the major call out for the troopers, advance, even as the people kneel and pray. And they quickly close in, and you see these helmeted armed people, and you see the whaps, cracks, and thumps of them descending upon these people. Not only do you hear these action sounds, but you hear the bigoted, obscene calls from white crowd cheering them on to go get them. And a cry comes out from the crowd that tear gas. And there's the sound of the tink tink of the chambers hitting the road. And then the psh, as the crowd begins, as the gases is released, and people begin coughing, and even as they're obscured. And you can see people still continue to mass figures moving through the smoke, raising their arms to still strike the people. And it shows, you can just see John's hands out in the concrete, and he sees behind him the shadow of a club raised behind him. And then there's black. Nothing but black. Mr. Lewis's head was cracked open that day. And that was not the first time nor the last that he would find himself in these situations. One of the other bits that comes up in this book, talking about marches, demonstrations, boycotts, sit-ins at counters where people refuse to be served. One of the things that he notes is that violence does beget violence, but the opposite is just as true. And he was well known as a man who stressed nonviolence reaction to a world that didn't always initially respond in turn. And if you have the time, I'd suggest that you check out all the books in the series. It's a first-hand account of stories that inspire, but some of the darker shades of our history too. Right now, there's even a push right now for people to, for the local government to rename the Edmund Pettus Bridge after Mr. Lewis. And it's interesting to see that debate, because there are some people think that it would be better with a name of person who has led an example of nonviolence. And there are also some who are saying that that was the bridge where he shed his blood. And others too. That's where they made a stand, and arguing that it's better to keep the name so that people can retrace it, similar to how those people did back in the 60s. Something to think about. We have more work to do when it comes to ensuring fairness in this country, and to turning anger and sadness into action and positive change. Not just change for change's sake. Screw that. But something that is a better way forward. Not just a different way, but something that we can agree is an improvement about where we go. We've had lots of times in our great country's history where its citizens stood up. They'd sometimes march. They'd sometimes raise their voices. And sometimes they would just kneel and pray for a better world. This is the example that John Lewis and others taught us. And maybe someday we'll have others looking back to us, seeing the examples that we provided them. Anyway, me and my cat wish you a good day and a safe tomorrow. Yeah.